At this point in the build, most of the woodworking is already done, so a lot of this is just finishing up, doing a lot of the final steps, a lot of the small details of getting the guitar ready to be strung up and played. So here I am filling the grain using a product called Aqua Coat. I use it on my first two guitars as well. And right here I'm drilling out some holes to hold some pins. Well, I used some drill bits, as you see there, to keep the bridge in place. This is the first time I tried this, but my hope was that when I went to attach the bridge that I'd be able to pin it in place and it wouldn't shift on me. I had that problem during the first two guitar builds where the bridge would move when I put glue down and try to clamp it in place. So masking off for the bridge, of course, you got to draw around the bridge, and then you got to cut out tape so that the only spot where the tape's going to be is right underneath the bridge. And you do kind of leave a little bit of space, a gap there, so it doesn't go completely to the edge of the bridge, the tape. It kind of comes up short a little bit so that there's a little bit of finish right under the edge of the bridge once it's applied. At least that's how I understand it. So here I'm doing the finish. I'm using a true oil finish. Basically, I'm using Eric Schaefer's method. You can find his method if you Google it. I think it's ericschaeferguitars.com. He describes a method for applying true oil. It's about 18 coats. And I decided to go ahead and try the StewMac buffing compound on this guitar. I did not use this product on the first two guitars. Did something different. You can see here I'm using my drill with a pad on it to apply all the coats. I think that's the first step completed, the medium. Just getting some shots of it. And then after you're done buffing, it's time for the bridge install, which is a pretty hectic part of the process. Getting the tape off first, cleaning it up. And you can see I put the drill bits in those pilot holes in order to hold the bridge in place while I clamped it down. And of course the mad panic to get all the glue squeeze out up there. I decided to go ahead and put a emblem in the top of my guitar. It's basically just kind of like a pendant with an M on it. I didn't do anything like this on my first two guitars. I just left the headstock blank. But this time I decided I wanted to put something in there. So this came as a necklace pendant, like I said. I ground off the part where you attach it to the necklace. And decided I was going to try to use super glue on this. And you can see how bad it went. Exactly what I didn't want to happen happened. That's no good. Pretty frustrating. I went ahead and sanded it off and ended up refinishing it later after doing some of the fret work, like you see me doing here. I used a sequence of sandpaper grits to polish all the frets. I think I went up to 1,000 or 2,000 grit, I think. Here I am making the nut, which takes a while. I ended up using my disc sander to get it most of the way down, and then just did a little bit of hand sanding to fit it there. And you can see how I refinished the top of the headstock. And then making the saddle took even longer than the nut because it's so thin, and I'm trying to hand sand it. Trying to hold it up against the sandpaper is difficult when it's so thin like that. But you can see here I got the saddle installed and shaped to the radius of the fretboard. Now I've got to notch the nut to accept the strings. And later on I do end up lowering the action at that nut to the proper height during the setup of the guitar right before I start playing it. Drilling out the holes for the bridge pins, not too difficult to do, just drill straight down. And then I have a 3-degree taper because the bridge pins I use a 3-degree. There's also a 5-degree, which I've not used yet, but I don't have a taper for 5-degree bridge pins, so I've been using just 3-degree. So now it's time to put the tuners in. Really nothing much to it, just put them in there, make sure they're straight, put the nut on the top, and then off camera I put a screw in the back in the screw hole to keep those attached. Now stringing it up. After I get done stringing it up, I do a full setup, but I did that off camera so you wouldn't have to watch all the boring parts. Now I'm getting ready to play it, so here's how it sounds. Thank you for watching all of the parts. If you did, please subscribe, and I've got more guitar builds coming up in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.